Hey everyone, Chris here with Zone Zero California, and right now I am at the intersection of Mulholland Drive and Spielberg. Behind me is a motion picture television fund, and just about one major intersection down the road a little further is the 101 freeway with the Valley Circle Drive and Mulholland Drive exits. Now, why am I here? Well, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, it's because this is another line of demarcation on the CAL FIRE Very High Fire Hazard Severity Zone map. So one of our previous videos we were at Bel Air, and I said, hey, if you live off Mulholland Drive, there's a great chance you are in the middle of a very high fire hazard severity zone. So here we are miles away in Calabasas, and as I mentioned, Mulholland Drive continues for quite a ways. But sure enough, this is where it kind of bends. If you look at a map, Mulholland Drive kind of bends and comes back towards the valley, heading like northwest, where it meets the 101 down there. Now this section of the 101 is, even though it says 101 north, it does have more of a due west direction. But again, we're just coming and putting our boots on the ground where the very high hazard severity zones begin. And so if you are north of the 101 at Valley Circle or Mulholland, that is in the middle of where the very high fire hazard severity zone begins in this part of town. North of here is Hidden Hills. That is definitely also a very high fire hazard severity zone. And as the 101 trajects northwest, it goes through Agora Hills, and eventually you get to Woodland Hills. And that is all, in the 101 through that stretch is in the middle of a very high fire hazard severity zone. So why are we doing this? Well, we're raising awareness because people in communities like Calabasas, after the fires of 2025, especially last year, they might be more acutely aware that they are in the middle of a very high fire hazard severity zone. But our goal here is to raise awareness about Zone Zero. Now, what is Zone Zero? Zone Zero is the new set of laws and regulations getting ready to take effect. Technically, they already are laws on the books. But nevertheless, the regulations are still in a draft process, and we expect them to be published very soon. Right now, we're at the end of February 2026. We do expect these things to be published and adopted statewide and countywide next month in March. And so, while the state might have its overarching laws and regulations that they're going to finalize, we know places like Los Angeles, San Diego, Berkeley, California are already moving ahead and adopting their own specific sets of local regulations. Why? Well, it's because not every part of California obviously is a rural community. Not every part of California is an urban community, but in places like Los Angeles or San Diego, right, we are more of an urban development. Now, you might call Calabasas the suburbs, so you might have a little bit more space in between the homes. You might have a slightly smaller population density, but nevertheless, this is a well-developed territory. Now, let's talk a little bit about what the Zone Zero regulations entail for those of you watching this, right? This is going to address the 0 to 5 feet around your home or your structure, okay? And what essentially it entails is clearing it of any combustible material. So you can't store firewood or gasoline cans within that 0 to 5 feet of your home or property or structure anymore. But it also now is going to extend to the types of building materials required and landscaping required. Now, the laws are specifically in effect for new builds. So think of all the homes that were destroyed and being rebuilt in Palisades or Malibu or Altadena. So those new builds are all going to have to comply with these Zone Zero regulations, which is essentially dictating that all building materials must be considered Class A non-combustible. So what does that mean? For example, your old wood fence or gate that's made of redwood, redwood's very inexpensive. A lot of old houses here have old redwood fences. Those are going to need to be replaced, especially if the gate abuts your house or the fence abuts your house. It's really within that 0 to 5 feet, but we know that some of these properties, the houses are built so close together that the property line between two houses may only be 5 feet, right? So that's something to consider. It's also going to really consider the landscaping. You're going to have to be replacing your landscaping essentially. And that's been some of the biggest pushback we've heard in the news from these public comments during this regulatory process, right? That people are saying, hey, you want me to get rid of my trees? These provide shade. Shade provides a lower overall, electricity burden, because now I don't have to crank my AC because I'm getting natural shade from the tree, which is going to lower the temperature naturally, right? Also has to do with drought issues. And so these are some of the things that we're trying to bring into focus here. And again, we're raising awareness because many people are aware, but many more probably are not. And that's our goal. So just to round it out with the Zone 0 building materials, right? We talked about landscaping, we talked about fences and gates. It also is going to include your decking and your rails. For example, I drove around Hollywood in one of our other videos, and we saw, an apartment building, but all of the balconies, and this was within the very high fire hazard severity zone part of Hollywood. All of the balcony rails were made of redwood. Those are going to need to be replaced, right? If your deck itself is made of redwood, that will have to be replaced. But the good news is, I know for a fact, I've spoken to a fence contractor about this. He showed me that the Cal Fire, they approved a hardwood known as Caillou Batu for use. So hardwoods are approved. So it doesn't mean you have to get rid of wood completely. It's just be more aware about what kind of wood is approved for these uses. And so rounding it out, besides the decking, fences and gates, landscaping, you also have your siding and your roofing. Now, I'm not too much of a roofing guy, but I'm going to get more information on that as time goes on. But we drove around many communities and saw that there were a number of houses that incorporated wood siding. And so that's something that's going to be a huge burden for homeowners and property managers moving forward. So, Calabasas is another one of those neighborhoods where I don't want to drive around too deep into where the houses are. Usually what I like to do, if it's easy enough, is drive around just a bit with the camera, with the GoPro, just to point out all of the different types of landscaping around these homes, right? Like in Beechwood Canyon, we saw dozens of properties where the palm trees are practically right next to the building. It's going to be within that Zone 0. Does that mean the palm tree might have to be replaced? We're going to find out, right? But we pointed out a number of old wood fences and gates within that 0 to 5 feet abutting the house that are most likely going to need to be replaced. So if you need more information, I've got two resources for you. Zone0California.com. That's a website I built to, kind of give people a central location to go to get more information, as well as to be put in touch with local contractors. We try to prioritize contractors who are on the vendor approved list by the Fire Safe Council. But nevertheless, we can put you in touch with contractors in your area. And I started a school community specifically for people to come and start the conversation. Now, I can also centralize a lot of resources there. I can put links to, these various organizations, people who are offering grants, places to apply for grants to help with this, giant retrofitting project that the state is essentially going to start enforcing and mandating. And it's really, though, a place for you in the community, you viewers out there. Maybe you've gone through hell and back. Maybe you've had a really bad experience, a frustrating experience, and you want to vent. Please come join our school community and share your story. I encourage it, I invite it. You can also do that in the comments here. But our school community might be a place where people can come and learn from your stories. And that's really the goal. We want to raise awareness and educate people. So once again, my name's Chris with Zone 0 California. I'm in Calabasas here, Mulholland Drive. And right off the 101 at Valley Circle. Again, we are boots on the ground. If you look at the Cal Fire map of very high fire hazard severity zones, this is where it begins. So as a good rule of thumb, if you live in the area and you're not far from Mulholland Drive, certainly if you're like west, northwest, right, anywhere into the hills, you are definitely in a very high fire hazard severity zone. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. I know I said I wouldn't drive around the neighborhoods, but I'm going to drive down Mulholland Drive just to kind of give you guys an idea here. We'll get just a little bit of footage in the area. So I'm going to turn this around here, and you can just see how Mulholland Drive here is just all trees and grass. Very beautiful. This is a little bit perhaps older part of Calabasas, but here you go, right over here across the street. That is a wooden fence. Here's another wooden fence. Here's a house with wood siding. right? You can see all the vegetation here. Let me go across the street. Well, in the middle of the divider here, I mean, this is all, you know, in a dry season, potentially dangerous territory. Perhaps it's too difficult to see across the street. I know with this GoPro camera, long distance viewing is hard, but I believe that could be hardy board. Oh, there's a house with wood siding. All right, here's another one with wood siding. Another one with wood siding. See, these are older style homes. They may have to be addressed. These are things that may have to be addressed. Beautiful neighborhood though. I mean, obviously a very, oh, here's a house with the old wood fence. All that old wood fence, that's redwood for sure. Possibly cedar, but my guess is redwood. That's gonna need to be replaced most likely. All right, so another house, wood siding. Wood siding. You see, so I'm just gonna leave it there. That was just a small example here as we drive down Mulholland. I'm headed to Topanga next, guys. We'll see you there. Thanks.